Thomas Elliot, Hush, is one of Batman's greatest enemies in my opinion. He is one of the strongest examples of a foil antagonist found within the Dark Knight's Rogues Gallery. His personal vendetta against Bruce Wayne knows no boundaries. He is a deep-rooted psychological obsession with Bruce, one that has crossed the line into a lot of dark and disturbing territories throughout the years. As children, Thomas Elliot and Bruce Wayne were the closest of friends, like brothers to one another. Coming from well-educated and wealthy backgrounds, they had very similar upbringings. They played a lot of strategy games against each other, which Tommy always won, being several steps ahead of Bruce in every instance. One thing they did not share, however, was the admiration and love for their parents. Unlike Bruce, Tommy hated his parents. His father had been abusive to both him and his mother, and she had become submissive, having married into the family, into the money, and put up with all the mistreatment just so she could maintain her social status. At the age of 10, Tommy sought his independence and planned to eliminate his parents so he could obtain his inheritance early. He would cut the brakes of their car and orchestrate a deadly crash, which killed his father, but unfortunately for Tommy, his mother survived. Bruce's father, renowned surgeon Dr. Thomas Wayne, would manage to perform a life-saving operation on Tommy's mother, which angered the young boy and made him bitter towards his friend Bruce as a result. While Tommy was forced to take care of his sick and injured mother, feeling trapped within his own life, Bruce would inherit his family fortune when his parents were senselessly murdered in an alleyway. While Tommy believed Bruce's father deserved to die for saving his mother's life, he would grow immensely jealous of Bruce due to the fact that his parents were now out of the picture, envious of his friend's newfound freedom in a sick and twisted way. Years later, Tommy would fall in love with a woman named Peyton, who had family connections to the mob. His mother would disapprove of their relationship, and, in retaliation, would end up altering her will and cutting Tommy out of his inheritance. Not wanting to put up with the controlling nature of his mother any longer, he would smother her with a pillow, kill their family's lawyer, and destroy the new will, so he could finally acquire the wealth, the birthright he had chased after ever since he was a child. Tommy would begin working as a neurosurgeon in Gotham City, notable for repairing the face of Harvey Dent and seemingly removing his alter ego of Two-Face. The Riddler, going under his notable alias of Edward Nashton, would come to Tommy as a patient, dying of brain cancer. The Riddler had tried to treat himself with one of Ra's al Ghul's Lazarus Pits, and would attempt to sell this information to Tommy. Tommy would deduce that Nashton was in fact the Riddler, and would ask the villain for his help in getting revenge against his old friend Bruce Wayne. Having used the Lazarus Pit, the Riddler would have a moment of clarity, as he put it, an epiphany, that Bruce Wayne was Batman. He would share this information with Tommy, who would adopt the identity and persona of Hush to take the Dark Knight down. Hush is one of my all-time favorite Batman villains. He's a cunning and merciless antagonist, whose personal and unsettling backstory with Bruce Wayne makes him a very compelling rival for the Caped Crusader. Hush is a master strategist and manipulator, having turned several of Batman's most iconic villains against him at the same time in the past. He has spent years training his body and honing his skills in order to match Batman as best that he can. Tommy's marksmanship abilities have allowed him to shoot thrown batarangs out of the air, and his fighting prowess have proven to be a challenge for Batman on multiple occasions. Despite my personal admiration for Hush as a character, I feel he gets a lot of hate online. I've seen several videos and comments over the years explaining how much he sucks, or is uninteresting, overrated, anything along those lines, and quite frankly, I don't understand this viewpoint. This bashing is completely unwarranted in my opinion. Hush's visual design is really cool, reminiscent of the Invisible Man from the Universal Monster movies. His backstory of feeling overprotected, suffocated within his own life, jealous of his friend Bruce Wayne in a lot of psychotic ways, is interesting, layered. I like the darker aspects to this villain regarding his surgical skills, mutilating, transforming, or repairing bodies, depending on the story. At one point, even taking his obsession of Bruce Wayne to the next level, performing reconstructive surgery on his own face to look like Bruce Wayne, in the hopes of destroying the entire Wayne Empire from the inside out. I think a lot of the hate regarding the Hush character is targeted primarily at his debut story from 2003, and honestly, despite the amazing artwork by Jim Lee, I do find it to be a rather lackluster story. I think it was a bit convoluted, feeling the need to juggle far too many characters, and the whole mystery surrounding Hush's identity wasn't executed as well as it could have been, in my opinion. There were some red herrings with Harvey Dent, even Clayface, posing as Jason Todd, posing as Hush, but it's made too obvious from the get-go who the villain really is, this character of Tommy Elliot that we had never seen before up until this point, who was given such a personal backstory with Bruce Wayne, and several ominous lines of dialogue with double meanings. How could it not have been him? I understand that the mystery surrounding Hush's identity was a prominent aspect of this character, but just because you feel it may or may not have been executed effectively doesn't justify your seeming hatred of this villain, doesn't give you the reason to completely disregard him as a character. It feels so close-minded to me. I enjoy a lot of characters that don't necessarily have a lot of strong depictions in comic books from a narrative perspective, but are interesting due to their concepts and origins by themselves. Sometimes that's enough. In Hush's instance, his debut story is a mixed bag. His reveal was divisive, I'd be the first to admit that, but that doesn't mean his backstory and motivations as a villain are weak, because they are far from it. And though his debut story wasn't that good, depending on who you ask, he has appeared in some other really great ones over the years, like Heart of Hush for example, written by Paul Dini. It accomplishes everything 2003's Hush did, and then some, in about half the pages. I did a review of it several years back for Halloween. Check it out if you haven't already, and if you've read 2003's Hush and it left a sour taste in your mouth regarding the Hush character as a whole, maybe track down the comic. It might change your perspective on him. This has been NerdGasm. Let me know what you think of the Hush character down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, found it entertaining or insightful in some way, think about subscribing to the channel to be notified of all the future content I release on here. Also, help support the production of videos like these by becoming a producer over on my Patreon page, gaining access to exclusive episodes of my podcast, film commentaries I plan to start in the near future, and a few other rewards. I will see you all in the next one. Take care and stay nerdy.